Hey folks, welcome back to Good Enough Customs. So this week, a little change up from what we're usually doing on here. We're kind of going into maintenance / modification mode. So Kruck's truck, if you're not familiar with what Kruck's truck is, it's a 2010 GMC 2500. It's got the Duramax in it. It's a good truck. He pulls everything with this thing, but the front suspension's been getting a little concerning. When I've ridden with him, I'm just like, dude, what's that pop? He's just like, I don't know, something's busted up front. We really need to get that fixed. So we've been sitting on a lift kit for this guy. You might have remember seeing the lift kit floating around in the back of Steve and various places throughout the shop. I've been sitting on that guy for a couple months at least, and we were waiting on his other parts to come in, which are the Kryptonite upper control arms, which these things are badass. Kryptonite uppers with serviceable ball joints in it, so that can be pulled out and replaced. It actually looks almost like a C10 style ball joint, but big old beefy bushings on this guy. So new uppers, new freaking tie rod ends. My God, look at the difference here. These are the Kryptonite dudes, and then here's this little fella right here. So those came in a while back, but not too terribly long ago. But then these guys are what we're really waiting on, which is the Kryptonite wheel hubs. So you may, if you own one of these trucks or any newer Chevy GMC, those wheel bearings, they go out. They go out pretty frequently. They go out faster than they should, and it's a unit bearing, so you just replace the whole hub. And I don't know if it's just aftermarket stuff is just garbage nowadays or what, but I've heard of a lot of people having to replace them more frequently than they should. So he didn't want to do that. He was like, I'm not playing this game. So that's why he went with the Kryptonite stuff. It's a little bit more expensive, and we had to wait quite a while for it to get in because I guess back order, whatever. But every bit of that Kryptonite stuff's got a lifetime warranty. Like, literally, they dare you to break it. I think one of them says, we don't care if you jump it or whatever. It was just like, break it. Try. Do it. So, but then I also got back here, we got all the rough country lift stuff. So here's our knuckles, which are, ginormous. There's where our lift's coming in at. We got more brackets and lots of brackets and more brackets. That's our sway bar end links. More brackets. There's some shocks up there somewhere. I think we've even got more brackets over here. So we got new lower control arms, new rotors, new pads. Yeah, we're giving this thing the works. So anyways, that's kind of where we're at. So I guess I'm going to jump right into it. And we already tore down the driver's side, figured out what tools we needed. Ended up having to run out a couple times yesterday to get different tools. So now we're just going to jump in here on the passenger side, and we're going to get this bugger tore down. So catch up with you here in a second. All right, here we go. So first things first, we got to get this inner fender out. Doesn't necessarily have to come out, but with that shock being a factory shock that is completely blown out, it's also a little rusty up here on the top of it, which really makes it a pain in the ass to get to, coming around these sharp edges and pulling this thing. It's only a few bolts and a couple of these little fasteners, wherever they are. They're somewhere in here, but yeah, these little guys, these little fasteners and a few little bolts here and there. I think a 10 millimeter somewhere and some 7s over here. I don't know. There's only a few things holding this in. But we'll pop this guy out. That gets us access back there. Plus it opens this up a little bit more to where, you can stick your head in here and look behind stuff and all that fun stuff. So we're gonna get started on that, and I'll update as we go. So yeah, here we go. All right, so yeah, this is like by far the worst bolts I've had to deal with. These little fellas back here holding on the brake caliper bracket. Yeah, I put the impact, I couldn't get the impact on this guy, but I can get the impact on the lower one, and put that on there, and it just laughed at me. I've tried using a cheater bar. Well, you guys saw, I mean, good God. So we're going to a bad place. I'll be right back. Ah, you dirty bastard. Those two guys were a pain in the ass. Couldn't get a good angle on them, and like I said, impact wasn't doing a damn thing with it. So floor jack it is. Yeah, so that got that sorted out. So now this whole piece is gone. That's good, no problem there. I can drop off the tie rod in, I can drop off the sway bar end link, I can drop off the shock, upper and lower mounts on the shock. You know, just continuing on, tearing down stuff. So I guess I'm gonna get back to it. So this socket is the biggest socket that I own, and it's like a 1 3/8 or something like that. Yeah, this is a 1 3/8 inch socket. This is literally the biggest socket that I own. It fit perfectly on the other side. It does not want to fit on this side, so I'm just kind of knocking it on there. Because hopefully this spindle nut shouldn't be too terribly tight, and as long as this lasts long enough for me to bump it with the impact, that's all that really matters at this point. So let's see what happens. Epic failure or resounding success. Let's find out. Let me grab this. Nope, epic failure. I guess I'm gonna try to figure out some way to get this stupid thing off, because this, like I said, 1 3/8 is the biggest socket that I got, and this is for doing pitman arms. It fit the other side, doesn't fit this side. So maybe this side's metric, I don't know. So anyways, I gotta get this guy off before I move forward, so I'll be back when I kind of get it figured out. This guy, from best I can tell, looks like it's a 35 millimeter, which is ginormous. Maybe it's a smaller size, I don't know. I'm going by this guy. He's got marks on it, which I'm guessing are in metric. So whenever I hook into it, I'm getting 35, 36 millimeters, something like that. Yeah, something like that. So 35, 36 millimeter. It's like right between. So I'm guessing 35 millimeter. Apparently O'Reilly's has one in stock. Kruck drove my truck home, since, you know, this truck's sitting here. And he'll be on his way here shortly, so he's gonna stop and pick that up for me. And I guess in the meantime, I'm gonna work on finishing tearing as much down as I possibly can, which isn't a ton. I mean, you know, shock, we get the shock off of it, that's easy enough. I guess I can go ahead and start working on getting this torsion bar loose. That's a pain in the butt. Well, shock, and then I guess I'll do the unlink for the sway bar, and then we'll work on that torsion bar. So yeah, good times. So here we go. cozy up underneath the truck. So in case you don't know how torsion bars are done, basically you got, see if I can't get this. So you get your torsion bar right here, and it acts like a spring that works, you know, this way, horizontally, I guess you would say. So it's under load right now because of this key. So this key and this bolt pushes up on the key, which then puts a preload on that torsion bar, which then acts like your spring for up there at the lower control arm. They work out pretty well, but they're kind of a booger to work with. So according to the instructions, we need to measure our length on this bolt to figure out where it's set at, so the, you know, for the preload. And then we got to take this off, but in order to do that, we have to hold the key, so that way it doesn't, you know, come down and, you know, smack us in the face. So so I got to measure this. The other side of it, I think, was 1.5 inches, 1 3/4 inches, something like that. Kruck wrote it down, so he's got that info. So I'll measure this guy, and then we had to go rent this fella, which hooks in up top. There should be a notch somewhere where that exhaust is probably sitting, which is great. And then you hook it in on the key. You press the key. See if I can get my hands in here. You press the key so it goes up. It relieves the tension on this guy, and then you can take this guy out. And then you can take that C-clamp and let it on out. Now, I've done it with a regular C-clamp before. It's a little sketchy, but it works. I don't think I would recommend doing that with just a regular old C-clamp. They're usually not the stoutest things in the world, and they start deforming and doing weird stuff, but it can be done. You know, this piece we rented from O'Reilly's. You know, they got their rent-a-tool program, so you know, just go rent it, get done with it, take it back, you get your money back. It's not cheap. It's like $90-something, but it's well worth it, just for the safety factor of it. So all right, the other thing we got a problem that, you know, is a problem and ends up being just a booger to deal with is we have to push the torsion bar forward in order to get it out of this. So you can kind of see, maybe, unless the shadows are killing me, let's move that back. Yeah, you can kind of see, here's the back side of the torsion bar. Once we get the strain off of it, then I can take and you know, hammer this out, basically hammer it forward, and then once it's hammered forward, I can drop it down. So everybody got that? All right, good. Moving on. Your torsion bar key. This side came out a heck of a lot easier than the other side. I really fought on the other side trying to get it out. So torsion bar is loose. I can push it forward. Can't drop it down just yet. The problem that you run into is, one, this cross member right here won't let me take it and flare it down and pull it back, and there's just not enough there's not enough angle I can get to get above this. So what we'll do is when I drop that lower control arm up front, then we'll pull the torsion bar out and move on from there. So I guess let's see, what's our next step? I do know that I've got to remove this cross member. There's a bracket for this cross member that lowers it, you know, to keep the torsion bars pretty well parallel. They need to be level. So I'll probably go ahead and work on getting this bracket, or this cross member, broke loose. It's one bolt on each side. So we'll get that done here in just a second, and then we'll find something else to do while we're waiting on Kruck to get here so I can finish tearing down that passenger side. So all right, well, I'll be back. being a 36 millimeter drive, or a half-inch drive socket. Only problem that we're running into is it is not going on by much, mainly because we're just running out of depth. Really needed a deep well socket, but you know, beggars can't be choosers. That's all we can find. So hopefully she'll do. So let's see if we can't get this done and finish tearing this front end apart. Bent the shit out of that.
Yeah, it's gonna go this way.
Holy hell. That sucked. So, you know, typically your upper ball joint is supposed to maintain control of this section. And, yeah, this one's not doing it. So, you know, you can see how much that freaking knuckle moves before it even starts wanting to move that upper control arm. So, ball joint shot. So all right, so that's done. So now all I got to do is take the hub off, and we can reclaim our dust shield, because we'll need that, and then I can pull the half shaft off. Actually, I'll pull the rest of the suspension off, and then I'll pull the half shaft off. So all right, here we go. Everything but the lower arms off, and let's give this lower ball joint a quick test and see how she's doing. That's not good. So all right, so now all that's left really is just knock off the two bolts that hold that lower control arm off, and we'll have this side of the suspension broke apart, and we've also got to get this tie rod end off, and it has way back here behind the boot, which is completely covered in grease and grime right now, but back here there is a it's got like a, you know, flange on it, or, you know, if you want to call it a giant nut, giant bolt head, whatever, hex. So, you know, but it's got that on this guy back here, and that's what we gotta, you know, break loose to get the get this tie rod off. So almost done with the passenger side. Then we can move on to dropping that front axle, the center section, and we can drop the cross members because those are going away. We're putting on new ones. Then we have to modify that that axle housing. We got to cut a mount off of it, shave down some fins. It's a whole thing. So so yeah, so we'll get fired off on that here in just a few. But I'm gonna go ahead and knock out this this lower control arm and tie rod end, and we'll catch back up here in a few. All right, so everything's off on the side here. Kruck's now underneath. He's already pulled the skid plates off, the factory skid plates. and the drive shaft, he's tying it up out of the way currently. And then we're going to get to dropping that rear cross member and getting the actual differential out of there, so we can do our trimming and all that fun stuff that we got to do, the massaging, so to speak, for that differential. So we'll set the camera up and record as we go. So see you here in a bit.
Either way. Oh, that ain't that bad.
Yeah, that ain't too bad.
Two at the same time. Oh shit! In my ear! What are you doing? Oh,
What was in your ear?
You got dirt in your ear?
You just don't break in my ear.
It's mass chaos.
God,
Everything's falling apart.
like 12 rats in a hole. Feel like I'm riding my Harley. Vroom, vroom, vroom.
And you're pushing your hand the wrong way. No
I know. It's for
freaking poser.
I'm doing it for the camera. It puts everything in reverse.
Give me a little pump on that thing. That's what she said. All right. All right, so we've got the rear cross member. It's out of the way. We got all the bolts that hold the transfer case in. Got the tranny jack slid up underneath here, just so we had a bigger footprint as opposed to the regular floor jack. You know, so instead of having just a 4-inch piece for this to sit on, we've got this nice large section. So we've got it supported up, but per the instructions, this piece, back up a little bit, this piece we have to cut right along this line, and basically we're going to be cutting this way with it, right along this control arm pocket, and get this whole piece out. That right there is what's keeping us from getting this transfer case out, because on the front there is, and I don't think you can see it, but way up in here is the upper mount for the transfer case, or the differential, and it's hitting the steering, so it doesn't have enough room to clear that steering, and we can't come back and we can't go over. We're kind of just hemmed in right here without taking the steering apart, and we're not doing all that. So plus the instructions say go ahead and cut this piece, so we're going to get the Sawzall out, and I'll just take it and cut right along here. You know, you'll see, but we'll get this guy cut out, and then we can get the transfer case dropped and do what we need to do there. So we will be back. Alrighty, got my Sawzall out. Hopefully I can make this work, because I've only got one metal blade and it's really freaking long. So let's see what we got. Yeah. All right, let's do it. Let's give a new blade a shot. See if we can't get a little bit better cutting this way. Alrighty, so they said cut this off and careful not to get into that box. And I tell you set that blade up pretty, flat up against that and just ride it through. It works pretty well. The only main complaint I have is all this grease and grime and crap that's stuck up behind the bracket and on top. It gets pulled into the saw blade and fills it up, and it won't cut worth a damn. But yeah, I'd say that did pretty well. So I'm gonna let that cool off a little bit because she's slightly warm. And then here's the other side. Yeah, it's a little bit warm, but cut the welds off. That's pretty impressive, actually. I'm kind of tickled with myself on that one. But yeah, got that cut using these Milwaukee torch blades. I will say those things are amazing. They are awesome. They cut like no tomorrow. So they're a little bit more expensive, but they do a damn good job. So anyhow, all right, I'm gonna let this cool off, and once she cools off good enough, I'll clean it up a little bit, so it doesn't have, it looks like there's some leftover crap up here at the top, and maybe some prickly stuff in and around. So we'll clean her up a little bit, maybe use a flap disc on it or something, just clean it up. But we're gonna let that cool off a little bit. I'm gonna clean my hands up and sweep up all these metal shavings, and we'll get back to you here in a minute. All right, folks, now we got this guy cut. That's actually super smooth, super nice. We got plenty of room to drop this differential down. I got my vent hose unhooked on this side. He's got everything disconnected on that side. So now it should just be a matter of dropping it down and rolling her out, and we can do what we need to do on the outside of this guy. So, all right, Kruck, let's do her.
Rolling down. Hands clear.
Okay, unforeseen wires anywhere? I don't think so.
I am not seeing anything hanging, jerking, becoming a pain.
Oh, shit. Is that the lowest this thing goes?
That's the lowest as this.
Well, damn it.
I mean, we could get it off the front.
Yeah, let's say I can. If you can support that side.
Yeah, hang on one second. I'm gonna roll back just a minute.
Yeah.
Ready, set, heavy, mama. Your side's way heavier, dude.
Yeah, I know.
I got the.
Not as heavy as I was anticipating, but definitely not super light. So, all right. Well, there's a differential, and we can get her slid on out. You go grab that little end.
I mean, for the most part, there ain't much over here.
Yeah.
You're the bearing of it all.
I'm grabbing all of it, but I just need something. You ready?
Yep.
Ah! There we go. All right. Yeah, there's your vent. So, I think this is what we're cutting off.
I believe so.
So, all right. Cleared off the workbench. All right, folks. So, got the differential up here on the workbench, so we can actually, look at this guy. A couple things we got to do to modify this is we've got to, I think, like I said, get the directions out. I'm gonna follow directions and verify all this before we do anything. Pretty certain we got to cut this mount off of the top. And then we also have to grind down some of the webbing on the side. And I don't know if it's on this side or this side. Pretty sure it's this side, but we're going to double check just to make sure it's not this other side. But it would make sense if it was this end. So we're going to refer back to the manual and verify all this stuff and proceed from there. But let's see, where are we at? Right here on page in the middle. Yeah, so photo 11 may be necessary to trial fit the differential after the cross measure have been installed. Check for clearance on the cooling fins. But as we can see in the picture, if you can see that in the picture, this is definitely the driver's side because there's our axle flange hanging out right here. So it'll end up being this part we got to shave down. So shaving this feller down, and then Let's see. Yeah, using a reciprocating saw, cut the top of the differential mount as shown in photo 12. Photo 12 is right there. So basically we got to hack this guy off. So we'll just cut it whoop, straight across. Shouldn't be too bad since this is cast aluminum. It'll cut pretty easy. This ought to grind down pretty easy as well. So it looks in the pictures like they ground quite a bit off of that. But that may be a different... That may be a little different year. I'm not sure, but as you can tell, it's like just squares and rectangles everywhere on there, where these are really deep. So it looks like they've shaved off quite a bit of that. But we'll get into that when it comes time. We'll probably go ahead and knock it down, but we got to get the cross members installed before we can really see how far we got to shave that down. So shaving those down, maybe wait until we get it back up underneath the truck. But we can go ahead and hack this guy off. Don't see why we can't. So, yeah, I guess we're going to get to that. Okie dokie. Wow. That's a lot of work. The directions never really say how deep to go. They say just kind of fill it out, figure it out, you know, test fit, yada, yada, yada. So we did take the rear cross member and we did test fit it down here earlier. I'm not going to reenact all that. It's kind of a pain. But this guy clears. Actually, we only really needed to shave up to like right here. So this part, what it shows in the directions, I don't know. Maybe there's something else that it might interfere with. We'll deal with that whenever we get up underneath the truck. But trial and error back here, figuring out what works best and all that. So I tried using the Dremel tool with just, you know, the regular bits like I do for porting and stuff. They work okay, but those aren't made for aluminum, so they gum up real fast. Then I tried a rotary file. That did better, as in making really good progress fast, but again, it started filling up and it wouldn't, you know, it was melting in there and it wouldn't come out. So also tried with the grinder. Unfortunately, my green one's got a problem with the switch apparently, but tried it with just a grinding disc, and that wasn't making as good a progress as I'd hoped. When it ended up going back to the flap disc, and flap disc seemed to do the job probably the best out of all that. So that's a 40 grit flap disc. It did pretty well. So if we got to take more off once we get it up underneath the truck, then we'll deal with it then when we get into the test fitting phase of everything. So yeah, so we'll finish up test fitting and grind off more if we need to when it gets up underneath the truck and we're actually putting it in place. Only thing left to do here on the bench is once I get all this grinding dust cleaned up, which is substantial. We do have a bracket that goes on some of these bolts on the front side up here, and there's a bracket up here where it's got the mount to replace basically this one that we cut off. So there's a bracket that bolts up to these bolts that brings the mount up right there. So that way it's got a front mount, rear mount, I guess a front high mount and a rear low mount. But we'll tackle that next week. So yeah, that's going to wrap it up for this one. You know, doing these suspension lifts on these trucks and replacing everything that we're replacing, it is a lot of work. It's a lot of unknown things that kind of happen and just kind of, you know, pop up and you're like, oh crap. You know, come to find out tools that you know, thought that you had, you don't have. tools you never would have thought that you would need, like a 36 millimeter socket. So, you know, you run into tools that you need, so you have to run out, and local parts house doesn't have it, so you got to run way on it down to another town and go picking up other stuff there. So yeah, it's a whole thing, but it takes a while. I think yesterday we put, I don't know, 6 hours, 7 hours, I don't know, 6 or 7 hours in yesterday, just kind of figuring out the best plan of action, going over the directions a few times, checking all of our pieces and parts, making sure we had everything, going through all that stuff. So there's a fair amount of prep to it. I think we were probably prepping for 2 or 3 hours before we even really got started on this. And then, you know, last night we tore down the driver's side, and then this morning I came out here and tore down the passenger side, which, having all but the one socket, for some reason it's a different size than the driver's side, I was able to get it done in about an hour, minus those couple little things. So overall, probably would have been able to get it done in an hour and a half, hour and 45, something like that, to completely tear down the passenger side, and then working up underneath the truck, getting all that stuff broke loose and dropped out and cut off, and, you know, doing all the stuff. I don't know how many hours we've got in it today. I'm probably sitting somewhere in about the 6 hour range today. So, you know, actual work, we're probably 10 to 12 hours in, you know, of actual work. So we'll continue working on this through the week, and try to get this wrapped up by next weekend. You know, now it's just putting on the new stuff, so it shouldn't be too terribly bad. Some more trimming probably needs to be done, setting everything up, getting things lined up, that type of thing. So we'll be working on that this week, and like I said, trying to finish it up next weekend. And then this thing will have the 6-inch lift and all new suspension hardware for the front. The rear is pretty much just going to get blocks and some new shocks. So, but yeah, we'll have new lowers, new lower control arm, new upper control arm, new spindles, new bearings, new brakes. All that stuff comes with new bushings and new ball joints. So yeah, everything should be new. So this front end should be very nice and very tight. So, so anyways, I was going to wrap it up for this week. I do appreciate y'all guys watching. If you liked the video, be sure and hit the like button. If you made it this far and you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting on? Just click the thing down there. So, anyways, look forward to seeing y'all next week. And just remember, folks, it ain't got to be perfect, just good enough. And we'll holler at y'all later.